going to continue this morning for a little while looking at this subject or topic that we opened up last week, which was finding our way in the world. How do we find our way in the world so that we live with a sense of real meaning and purpose, that our identity is grounded in something which is strong and sure, so that the direction of our life has some momentum and clarity associated with it. I guess it's all about really understanding what our why is in the world, that great concept that Simon Sinek opened up with discovering your why, knowing what life is really all about. And to help us achieve this, to help go on that journey, I've broken these these talks down into three main areas. Last week we took time to discuss the topic of curiosity and the importance of curiosity in our lives as a stimulus towards empowering us and enabling us to move forward, and how easily life can get us into that place whereby we become stuck in maybe a rut or a routine or a process, rather than remaining curious in the world in which we live. And so the importance of maintaining that curiosity, living with a sense of inquisitiveness, questioning life and its meaning and its purpose, is, I think, a great way to approach the world in which we live. And so we spoke about that idea of extending to ourselves an invitation towards curiosity. I went on to frame that from my own experience and the development of my own worldview, and how that, of course, has been framed around the person of Jesus. And Jesus speaks to his disciples one day, and he says to them, "I am the gate." He literally meant that he was the gate, because there in ancient Israel, the shepherds would have led their sheep, and as they led their sheep, they would lead them to the sheepfold in the evening and lead them in there for protection and safety. And then literally the shepherd would lie down with the gap between the wall, and he would become the gate. And so Jesus is the gate, that's what he says, and we step through that gate, if you like, into another experience, into a different world, into a way of seeing the world through the eyes of Christ rather than our own eyes. And so Jesus has become, for me, the gateway into that journey of curiosity. And that's sort of where we got to last week. This week I want to open up the subject and the topic a little bit more by talking to us about the subject of wonder, and how we need to step from a place of curiosity into a place of real wonder. Wonder at the world, wonder at creation, wonder at who we are. And so I want to take a little bit of time this morning unpacking the subject of wonder, and how this can be a true stimulus to us to engaging with the world, and also, I believe, the one who created the world in which we live. So to help to do this, I want to start by reading some of the words out of Bill Bryson's book, A Short History of Nearly Everything. I just want to read a few paragraphs from the introduction to this book, because I think it helps to set the scene when we talk about the topic and the subject of wonder. This is what he has to say. "Welcome and congratulations. I'm delighted that you could make it. Getting here wasn't easy. I know. In fact, I suspect it was a little tougher than you realize. To begin with, for you to be here now, trillions of drifting atoms had somehow to assemble in an intricate and curiously obliging manner to create you. It's an arrangement so specialized and particular that it has never been tried before and will only exist this once. For the next many years, we hope, these tiny particles will uncomplainingly engage in all the billions of deft, cooperative efforts necessary to keep you intact, and let you experience the supremely agreeable but generally underappreciated state known as existence. Why atoms take this trouble is a bit of a puzzle. Being you is not a gratifying experience at an atomic level. For all their devoted attention, your atoms don't actually care about you. Indeed, don't even know that you are there. They don't even know that they are there. They are mindless particles, after all, and not even themselves alive. It is a slightly arresting notion that if you were to pick yourself apart with tweezers, one atom at a time, you would produce a mound of fine atomic dust, none of which had ever been alive, but all of which had once been you. Yet somehow, for the period of your existence, they will answer to a single rigid impulse to keep you, you. The bad news is that atoms are fickle, and their time of devotion is fleeting indeed. Even a long human life adds up only to about 650,000 hours. And when that modest milestone flashes into view, or at some other point thereabouts for reasons unknown, your atoms will close you down and then silently disassemble and go off to be other things. And that's it for you. Still, you may rejoice that it happens at all. Generally speaking, in the universe, it doesn't, so far as we can tell. This is decidedly odd because the atoms that so liberally and congenially flock together to form living things on Earth are exactly the same atoms that decline to do it elsewhere. Whatever else it may be at the level of chemistry, life is fantastically mundane. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, a little calcium, a dash of sulfur, a light dusting of other very ordinary elements, nothing you wouldn't find in any ordinary pharmacy, and that's all you need. The only thing special about the atoms that make you is that they make you, and that is, of course, the miracle of life. And not only the miracle of life, but a great place to start when we think about the subject of wonder and what that means for you and me. After all, I wonder whether you take time to wonder. We may take time to wonder, but do we take time to wonder? To wonder at the creation all around and about us. I remember at the beginning of lockdown, Charlotte purchased a hot tub for our home. And so we'd go out sort of as it was getting dark and sit in the hot tub and look up at the clear night sky and see the stars. Amazing. What a wonderful sight. What a thing to wonder about. How did all of this come to be? They reckon now that there's a great deal of value in the importance of daydreaming. For some of us, that comes, of course, more natural than others. But the idea is that daydreaming, is not a waste of time, but it's actually an important part of engaging with who we are. Yet so often we can easily get caught up in needs and pressures and the priorities of this and that and the urgency of the other, so that we get pulled from this situation to that situation, and we never actually create space or time for us to take time to wonder, to dream, to think about life. When was the last time that you gave yourself permission to do this? I mean, just to sit down with a coffee or something similar and allow your mind to wander on the subject of wonder. What is life? And what is it all about? This, I think, is the reason why curiosity matters, why these things make a difference. We miss out on so much when we don't allow ourselves the time we need just to be, to think, to muse, to meditate, to contemplate, to feel, and to wonder. Somebody asked the question, and I think it's worth considering, what would you do with your life if all your needs, including your financial needs, were met? if your day was just your day and your week was just your week, to do with it whatever you would like to do, then what would you do with your life? How would you engage with what this world is all about? That sense of identifying with the wonder of creation. What would you do, as Bill Bryson calls it, with the miracle that is known as life? How should we treat this precious gift that God has given to us? Yesterday I heard the terribly sad news of a passing of a close friend of my own, and it reminded me again of the value, the importance, the miracle of life, this gift that we've been given to us, and how we should treat it, how we should respond to it, how we should engage with the miracle of life. It was Werner Heisenberg who said, "The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you." Indeed, God is. You see, according to scientists, the universe started some 13.8 billion years ago, which we know, according to those same scientists, by measuring the furthest point back in the cosmos and calculating the time it has taken for that light to reach us. Since they know that light travels at approximately 186,000 miles a second, they can calculate the beginning of the universe at some 13.8 billion years old, which is, on all accounts, really old. And it's an amazing calculation when you're able to work that out. So the universe has been expanding for some 13.8 billion years, as the scientists tell us, and it's getting bigger all of the time. And this universe is made up of exactly the same thing as you and me, atoms. Now, it turns out that atoms are 99% empty space. Now, if all this space was taken out of all the atoms in the universe would fit into the size of a sugar cube, which I have to say is really, really difficult to get your head around. You telling me that if atoms were condensed and all the space outside of atoms was removed, then you would reduce the universe to the size of a sugar cube? Wow. Now, an atom, when you want to think about how big is an atom is in size to a golf ball as a golf ball is in size to the Earth, which makes atoms really small. In fact, it makes them terrifyingly small, that one thinks, how on earth could you ever get to the place where you could measure the size of an atom? But scientists, clever as they are, can not only measure the size of an atom, but nowadays they can split an atom and tell us that atoms can be broken down into other various particles that have very interesting, if not somewhat complex, names. But let's just stay with the atom. Now, it's been estimated that there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the Earth. Think about that for a moment. There are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the Earth. I don't know whether, when you were building sandcastles as a kid, or whether now you build sandcastles with your children or your grandchildren when you're down on the beach. I don't know whether you've ever thought for a moment, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a bucket of sand, and I'm going to take that bucket of sand, I'm going to lay it out on a table, and I'm going to count how many grains of sand are in the bucket. You've probably thought to yourself, I'm not actually going to do that because that's going to take me a really, really, really long time. And do I want to give that amount of time to counting the grains of sand that are in a bucket? Now, there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the earth. That is a lot of stars. These things start to blow your mind a little bit when you consider them and when you think about them. But there are more atoms in one grain of sand than there are stars in the universe. I don't know whether you ever begin to wonder about these wonderful things. I don't know whether you ever start to consider, what is this life really all about? And allow your heart to be enlarged by the greatness of the cosmos, the wonder of creation, and everything that he offers to us in this miracle of this one beautiful, amazing life that we've been given, and the ability that we have to experience this world. Yet where did all of this start? Well, to help us, let's welcome the very clever Professor Stephen Hawking and the concept of something that's known as singularity. Stephen Hawking said this: "At this time, the Big Bang, or the matter in the universe, would have been on top of itself. The density would have been infinite. It would have been what is called a singularity. At the moment of the Big Bang, the singularity is split and energy is released, and the universe as we experience it is born. And everything that's everything, every atom that has been made, everything at any time came from something which in size was akin to a sugar cube, but in density carried the weight of the universe." Now, my intention this morning isn't to give us a science lesson. What do I know about science? But to rather to draw on some of these interesting quotes and things that have been said by clever people down through the years, and rather to stimulate a conversation and a thought around this topic of wonder, and stepping into the wonder and asking yourself and myself the question, what on earth is this life really all about? Does it have any value or purpose? Is there any meaning behind everything that we see and experience? And so from this point of singularity comes everything in you and everything around you. Think of the sugar cube, just that small cube of sugar. The size of the sugar cube is where the universe begins, and in a moment of singularity, it splits and the universe is born. But why? Here's another thought. If we all came from a sugar cube, not literally a sugar cube, but something the size of a sugar cube, and if your life and my life was contained within the sugar cube, to use the illustration, then little wonder that we all feel such a deep sense of connection. Because we all came from the same place. Because every atom that has gone on to create the universe came out of that moment of density, that place of singularity, when it was split at the moment of the Big Bang. And so no wonder we live with such a desire for relational connection in the world. No wonder we live with such a desire to be connected to one another and to the creation of which we're a part, because we all came from the same origin, born from the same place, given birth from the same sugar cube, to use the analogy. My question today is simple. Who's holding the sugar cube? That's where wonder takes me ultimately. Fascinated by the science, amazed by all of the discovery, curious about everything that is happening around the world. But I'm still thinking, who holds the sugar cube? Because presumably at some point, the sugar cube was held by someone. And for me, that someone is Christ. Why do I say that? Well, in Genesis chapter 1, that great opening story in the Bible, it says, first this, God created the heavens and earth, all you see and all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. God's Spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. Who's holding the cube? For me, Christ holds the cube. You see, Christ comes into the cube in his humanity, but he holds the cube in his divinity. Through him all things were made, John wrote, and without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Or as the writer to Hebrews would say, in the past God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways. Excuse me, but in these last days he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom he also made the universe. Or Paul, writing to the church at Colossae, would say, the Son is the image of the invisible God. He is the firstborn over all creation, for in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. You see, Christ is not simply holding the cube, but he's holding every atom within the cube together. That's why the Christian story is a cosmic story, and is best understood on those terms. For God so loved the cosmos, Jesus says, that he gave his only Son. God loves everything that he created. He loves every atom that he brought into being. Bob Goff, a great preacher and speaker, said this. He said, every sunrise is a reminder of who he is and who we're not. Gosh, that's perspective for you. If that doesn't take us to the place of wonder at creation and at the Creator, then what can? And indeed, what will? In Psalm 19, David, that great poet, pens these words. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. Yet their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens, God has pitched a tent for the sun. It's like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run his course. It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth. Yesterday was, in the Jewish calendar, Shemini Atzeret, which is a festival held at the end of the Festival of Tabernacles, which is a 7-day festival which is used to celebrate the ingathering of the harvest. The people would establish and build tents or tabernacles or booths for themselves, and they would gather around Jerusalem and they would come and celebrate the harvest with thanksgiving and praise and adoration for the provision of Yahweh for yet another year. Of the festival of Shemini Atzeret, Rabbi Sachs says, the festival reminds us of the intimacy Jews have always felt in the presence of God. Other nations have focused on the vastness of God and the smallness of humankind. Judaism focuses on the closeness of God and the greatness of humankind. That is why, when all the universality of Judaism has been expressed, there remains something that cannot be universalized, that sense of intimacy with and closeness to God that we feel at Shemini Atzeret, when all the other guests have left. Shemini Atzeret is chamber music, not a symphony. It is quiet time with God. We are reluctant to leave, and we dare to think that he is reluctant to see us go. Justice is universal. Love is particular. There are some things we share because we are human, but there are other things constitutive of our identity that are uniquely ours. Most importantly, our relationships to those who form our family. During tabernacles, we are among strangers and friends. On Shemini Atzeret, we are with family. The festival reminds us of the intimacy Jews have always felt in the presence of God, the rabbi says. Other nations have focused on the vastness of God and the smallness of humankind. Judaism focuses on the closeness of God and the greatness of humankind. What a wonderful place to start when we consider the topic and the subject of wonder. The fact that God has created this vast and amazing world, yet in the story of the Old Testament scriptures, he comes close to the people that he has created. And today, through the unfolding story of the scriptures and the New Testament, we see that God draws close to each of us. To the whole of humankind, he draws close to us in the person of his Son, Jesus Christ. To think that God in his vastness has drawn close to us, that he stooped down to make us, each of us, made in his image. What an amazing thought to contemplate. This, for me, is where beauty and wonder collide. It's the place where pain is given perspective, where loss is given hope, and suffering finds redemption through the actions and the activity of who? Through the actions and the activity of the cube holder, of the Christ, of the one who not only gave life to this earth, but also gives new life to this earth through the starting of a new creation, captured in his death and resurrection. You see, the reason that we can move into wonder and find comfort in the place of wonder is because the Christ who holds the cube is the Christ who's conquered death and brings new life to you and me. For me personally, this is the lens through which I have chosen to view the world. It is the perspective that makes most sense to me and brings a sense of identity and purpose and meaning and fulfillment. I am the gate, Jesus said, and walking through it gives wonder a sense of perspective. It allows purpose to flow. Wonder through the gateway of Jesus is the pathway to intimacy with the divine. It is the gateway through which we pass to truly connect with new creation. The one who holds the sugar cube is the same one who holds you and me. And that, my friends, should bring us comfort It should bring a sense of peace to us all. For as we contemplate with curiosity the wonder of creation, how comforting it is to know that in this story, the Christian story, the Christ story, we find the one who not only holds the sugar cube, but the one who steps into the sugar cube to bring life and peace and hope to you and to me. And that is good news for everyone. Well, let's consider and continue this little journey of finding our way through the world. We've looked at curiosity. We've entered into the wonder of creation and the one who creates it. Next week, we'll draw this little series to a close by considering passion. What does it really mean to connect with the things that make you come alive inside? But until then, let's open up our hearts and bring our worship to God as we sing together the song, Beautiful.
I see your face in every sunrise. The colors of the morning are inside your eyes. The world awakens in the light of the day. I look up to the sky and say, you're beautiful. I see your power in the moonlit night, where planets are in motion and galaxies are bright. We are amazed in the light of the stars. It's all proclaiming who you are. You're beautiful. beautiful. You're beautiful. I see your face. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. I see your face. I see your face.